Great. Thank you very much, Larissa. And also from my side, warm welcome to this session. It is about a system conversion with the specifics that we target SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Well, as the title states. In the beginning, I would like to do some naming clarifications here. Let me organize my screen with the specific settings here for Zoom. Yeah, you know what a system conversion is, of course. It's the transition of one ERP source system to one SAP S/4HANA system. That is one out of three scenarios we have. There is the new implementation as well. There's selective data transition, but we are again focusing on system conversion. And the next thing is what we have to keep in mind concerning naming. RISE with SAP is not really a technology. It's a comprehensive SAP offering where you get one contract. And the RISE with SAP is a project that supports you in the transition to the intelligent enterprise, where the cloud ERP, the SAP S/4HANA system, is the essential part. And RISE with SAP bundles services for data migration, cloud infrastructure of choice, process redesign, and much more. SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition is the actual deployment model that is part of RISE with SAP offering. And it's, in easy words, it's the SAP S/4HANA on-premise software operated by SAP. Not really precise, but it's maybe an easy explanation for colleagues not yet so familiar with this part. You can have a look at this web page here. If I choose my cursor, then we can have a look on this page. You can open the page and you can scroll down and you will find a lot of information, information that I will not focus on today, as I'm focusing on the technical part. But at the bottom of the page, you will find frequently asked questions. And among those, you may question what is the difference between SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition and RISE, and hopefully it's the same as we have seen on my slide. Private Cloud Edition is the cloud ERP at the heart of it all, and RISE with SAP is a bundling of services and tools and much more. So that would be the short look onto this web page. After this naming clarification, we see we have three sections. System conversion basics, things you already know. Let me shortly repeat them as they are essential for the following parts as well. In the second part, we will have a look on the specifics for targeting SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. And the third part is then combining the system conversion with the transition, what technical aspects and what offerings we have from technical perspective. So the official phrase is SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. You may sometimes hear PCE as an abbreviation. If you hear PCE, it's the Private Cloud Edition. That's a not official abbreviation, but commonly used for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Yeah. Okay, now to the basics of a system conversion. You know the picture here. It's also part of the conversion guide. We have a preparation phase with the tools we need and the realization phase, mainly the software update manager and other things. And the source system is SAP ERP 6.0 on any database, and target is SAP S/4HANA. For example, 2023, we have feature package 2 available now. SAP S/4HANA is different. That's why there are things to check. We have the maintenance planner checking component level, simplification item checks the system on customizing, configuration level, custom code preparation, because SAP S/4HANA comes with a new data model. All this is the same when targeting S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Concerning the realization phase, Software Update Manager will adapt the software, and there are changes on database level, the new data model of S/4HANA, same for targeting SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. There are things different concerning the execution of the Software Update Manager. We will have a look on that later. So mainly the things remain that we are aware of. And the task of the Software Update Manager, you know that part. It's updating the software, obviously, what the name says. It is partially taking over the data conversion from the old model to the new data model of SAP S/4HANA. Simple illustration is here in case the source is already SAP HANA 2.0, then we can keep this database. We do not have a database migration. We just have software update and data conversion. But of course, if the source is not yet on HANA database, then we have the third task as big task here. That is the database migration. And on this page, that is a repetition as well. For the case of a move, especially as part of RISE with SAP, there is the complete change of the source system. That means the application server level will change as well. And we will have a special look on this in the second part, the third part then technically. That is relevant because typically a move as part of RISE with SAP starts on-premise and ends in the SAP target environment of RISE with SAP. The compatibility packs are not new to you. Of course, you know this, and they have been mentioned in the session exploring the basics of SAP S/4HANA on April 30. That was listed there, what compatibility packs are, special kind of simplification items. There were a bridge allowing you to continue to use specific functionality that was already there in ECC, but now the SAP S/4HANA 2023 has the full coverage, so there are the new features as well, so you have to switch if you now do a conversion. So it's a kind of bridge in between, and there are separate lessons here independent of our Move to Cloud ERP session that are advertised here, important to know. And there is a blog post on the compatibility scope as well. Yeah, that was quite fast, but it's been the repetition of some major aspects that you are aware of, just to highlight them again as they are potentially important for the transition to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Second part, relevant differences to on-premise. That is, first of all, we do have a release strategy. Nothing new for you. You know, we have currently SAP S/4HANA 2023. There will be 3 feature package stacks. We have delivered feature package stack 2 as I speak a few weeks ago. And the next big release will be 2025. So that is the same. And that was already mentioned in the other session I have already mentioned here. And the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition follows the same release strategy. That's now listing what is the same, not a difference, but it's worth mentioning. We have the same release strategy. And this is written down in the SAP note that you see listed on this slide. Then we have the compatibility packs and the compatibility scope metrics. There is an important SAP note that is listed here on the screenshot and down below. This includes the compatibility packs and what is relevant to know. And for us in this session now, targeting the Cloud Private Edition, it's important. Functional differences between the on-premise and the Cloud Private Edition are listed in there. This SAP note has an attached Excel document, and there is a separate column for targeting SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition that you have to consider. That is a different thing for targeting Cloud Private Edition. What's different as well? Third-party add-ons for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. It is similar to SAP S/4HANA on-premise. It is not allowed to install add-ons that require operating system access, since in the S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, you do not have access to the operating system. And even during the transition to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, as we will see, typically the partner will execute this. The partner does not have operating system access to the target infrastructure. There is a validation and approved add-ons that are validated by SAP Enterprise Cloud Services. That's the organization of the colleagues taking care for the systems, and they are listed in respective SAP node. See here SAP node for 2021, 2022, and 2023, the respective SAP nodes on those add-ons. Installation of uncertified add-ons is, as always, at the customer's own risk, because this may have an impact on future upgrade feasibility and on the system performance. That is to be considered. It's not that we do not allow this, as long as it does not require operating system access, but it has to be taken into a risk assessment. Again, a blog post that highlights some important things on this aspect on third-party add-ons for Cloud Private Edition is listed here. Apart from add-ons, it's important to know that concerning Private Cloud Edition, there we have a document on roles and responsibilities that is important. There is a section on the move services that I would like to highlight. That is a screenshot of this document that you can find here if you open the link. Yeah. If you open the link, you will get a list of documents per language. So you can either open the English one that I've taken or any of the provided languages there about the roles and the responsibilities and what is part of the standard offering, what are additional services or optional services that may be relevant also for the transition. So for the initial setup of your S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition that originates from a conversion from your ERP 6.0 source system. I already mentioned it. Typically, the execution is done by an educated partner. So we have the customer, we have the partner executing the conversion with the transition to S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, and we have the SAP colleagues, especially those from ECS, Enterprise Cloud Services, that take part. So it's important to really have an understanding on the responsibilities and roles, who's responsible for what. That is the statement to be taken from this slide. Then we have SAP Fiori. So the SAP colleagues will set up the technical landscape required for SAP Fiori app usage. The Fiori front-end server, that is the part that contains the software for the Fiori technology, is provided by an embedded deployment, as it's anyhow recommended nowadays. A web dispatcher is deployed as well. And you just have to be aware of the options and tasks to expose Fiori to the public internet. So that is a separate point to be configured. SAP will configure some test Fiori app versions, so verify the setup, and additional Fiori app enablement are possible with optional services. Those services that are listed in this document. It's a PDF document, but it contains an Excel list with those services there. There's a checklist and guides available for Fiori enablement, especially like SAP Fiori rapid activation, custom code creations, and other things. That was a fast go through the specifics on different levels, comparing S/4HANA on-premise with SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. I've picked out the major things to be considered that you are aware of this. And now in the third section, we'll have a look at the execution of the conversion. So combining the system conversion with a transition from ERP 6.0 on-premise to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Technical aspects. Technical aspects is, it is a system conversion. We combine this with a transition. And if it's a transition, if it's not an in-place conversion where the application server level is constant, and if the source is on SAP HANA, even the database level is constant, obviously this picture is too simple. We have to separate those two environments. We have the source environment, customer on-premise, and we have the target environment, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, operated or provided by ECS, again, Enterprise Cloud Services. I will not mention the old name, HEC, HANA Enterprise Cloud. Oops. Yeah, you know that's the old name. So what's to be considered? We want to have a one-step conversion and transition using the software update manager. And you may ask yourself, well, then we'll have to consider the architecture. Left-hand side, sorry, this should read any DB, so any database. Can be HANA, does not have to be HANA. And it's about the application server level as well, as already mentioned. And so the question is, how is the target infrastructure set up? Who's doing what? And where does the partner start the software update manager? That shall be illustrated in the following here. Again, we have the conversion from customer on-premise. They have the source system, and the partner is located at the customer side or as least The partner is using the customer connection to the target environment here, S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. And now you see two colors here. Blue, that is the target infrastructure of the application server level of SAP S/4HANA, and of course running on SAP HANA database. But during the transition, there's a green area that is the virtual machine. It's a migration server with storage and potentially with object storage as well, depending on the technical background. And typically, a partner is executing the transition. The partner will get access to the migration server, will get operating system access to the migration server, but the partner will not get root access on the target infrastructure listed in blue for security reasons. So for a temporary time, a migration server is set up where the partner gets access and will do what is required, even will install software and will run the software update manager potentially, depending on the approach. We will discuss this. That is the approach that is used for scenarios using the software update manager, but also for, of course, database migration option. We will have a look, and brands. That means for other scenarios where we do not use software update manager, you can imagine maybe on a tenant copy from S/4HANA to S/4HANA, we do not use the software update manager, or fresh installation with the software provisioning manager, always the same approach. Partner gets access to this migration server. For the time of the conversion, this is where the partner is working on. And at a specific time, for example, if the conversion is done and the post activities require SAP GUI access, then the ECS colleagues will switch to the target landscape, where then the partner will get the SAP GUI access, but not the operating system access. And those virtual machines will be decommissioned at the end. That's a general overview. And of course, we recommend a good connection between source and target so that the downtime is hopefully not affected by this connectivity aspects there. Yeah, not yet in details, but that's the case for all the scenarios we have for targeting S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Now, what you already know is the software update manager is the technical engine, and we have already discussed that it's technically possible to do this in place. From the perspective of the application server level, if this is kept, then the source and target system both are on premise, or we have this case of transition to hyperscaler, which is of course the focus of the session today. So source system is on premise and it shall be converted, database migration and transition in one step to S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. This transition to hyperscaler now is the focus. And for this transition to hyperscaler, where we use the software update manager, that is also the engine for this case, there are two options now. They were already mentioned shortly on one of the previous slides. They were already mentioned in the conversion overview session. Two options. The one is left-hand side, D-move to S4, and the other one, right-hand side, is DMO with system move. We'll have a look on those technical options and give you some hints when you should look for the one or the other. DMO with system move is already there since years. A rather new approach is called D-move to S4 that we have since a year, I think, or 1 or 2 years. And this strange abbreviation contains DMO. So obviously the migration option of the software update manager is used. It also contains the phrase move, as it is specifically for the move as part of RISE with SAP. And then to S4 is the statement that this approach can be used if we target SAP S/4HANA. In our case, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Yep. There's a long name for this DMO move to SAP S/4HANA on hyperscaler, but I will use D-move to S4 as the new one. So let's have a look at DMO with system move, that one that is available since several years. It was the first scenario that offered the software update manager scenario to move complete system. So either only switch the primary application server host or to migrate across data centers or move to the cloud as infrastructure as a service. And we see we have left-hand side the application server level and the source database, and right-hand side the HANA target database and the application server level. Their requirements is that this target infrastructure is set up before we start the software update manager. Since the software update manager will not install the target HANA database, that's something that the tool is never doing, even in plain DMO scenarios. But the software update manager will neither install application servers. That's why this has to be set up prior to the approach. And coming back to this picture with the green and blue areas, that would be the task for the partner to install the application server instance on this migration server, on this virtual machine. The sequence is that we start the software update manager in the source environment, where the software update manager will take the data from the database, export it into files, and then at a specific point in time, the tool will tell us that we copy the SAM directory to the target, and then we start the software update manager in target as well. So we have two software update managers in the ideal case running in parallel. And then the second software update manager will do the import and, of course, all the other things that belong to a conversion. That is a proven technology. The drawback is that this approach does not offer the advanced technologies to reduce the downtime. This technology does not allow to use downtime optimized DMO. There, we already migrate table content during uptime. And it does neither support downtime optimized conversion, migrate and even convert into the new data model in uptime. That's not possible with this approach. That's why we have the other approach. And that is the new one that I will explain then. But keeping with DMO with system move, so we have the source area here with the application server, manually set up by the partner of the application server and HANA database level. And then we have to provide the download basket, the download folder where the software archives and stack XML as a recipe are listed. And then we start the procedure in the source with uptime processing. And then there is a file transfer during the procedure from source to target, so that we, in the ideal case, have a parallel processing. While this first software update manager is still exporting, we are transferring the files to the target, and the target software update manager can already import in there. Yeah, there are long-running shadow operations. You know, the shadow system, the shadow repository, that is long-running, and that's why the parallel mode in this option is the one to be used, where those shadow operations run in uptime. We do the export and the import then in parallel, and then the remaining activities, so downtime, are done at the target, and then the procedure is finished. And we have not only migrated the content from source to target HANA database, we have not only executed the conversion, but we have also done the move to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. That is DMO with system move. And now the new approach, the move to S4, that somehow looks similar. We have a source environment, of course, with primary application server and maybe potentially additional application server levels. We have a source database. We have to set up the HANA database in the target. We have to have set up an application server in the target. But the general idea is we do not only install here an application server, we install an additional application server that belongs to the source system. Wait a minute, source system is the ERP system running on premise. Yes, we extend this source system to the target environment, and we install an additional application server target environment that belongs to the source but runs in the target environment. That's the trick. That's the way that DMO with move to S4 works. We start the software update manager only on one place. That's the target additional application server. And the software update manager will recognize I'm not running on the primary application server, so I will offer the user that I, as a tool, software update manager, will move the ASCS instance, the ABAP central services, from this previous primary one to the new one. That's a standard offering since years, and we use this technology. And with this, we have the move included. We have only one software update manager running, but this will include the move of the application server level. Yes, there are some post activities, not to be forgotten, that have to be done, but the major steps are executed in here. And this approach is faster than DMO with system move. And even if it's not fast enough for your project, you can switch on those downtime optimization techniques, either downtime optimized DMO or downtime optimized conversion. That's the benefit. Another benefit is for those familiar with migration option, the software update manager is triggering this R3 load. It's a kernel tool, and it's used in the pipe mode, so a very fast transfer of data from source to target and no creation of dump files. Drawback is we need a good connection between source environment and target cloud ECS area. We need a good connection because we extend the source system to the target environment. And we have only one software update manager. And if the connection is not good, the software update manager will not run good. We will get issues in there. The SAP node on DMO lists the requirements. I did not list them in here. You check the SAP node, and then you'll see we ask for a latency not higher than 20 milliseconds and a bandwidth of, let's say, 400, as far as I remember. And this is only supported, as the name says, for targeting SAP S for HANA. Not to be forgotten. And it works even if the source is on HANA database. Of course, you know, the software update manager can do HANA to HANA migration since a while. That's nothing new in here. Putting it together in an overview, what do we see here? This ECS private cloud is the target where we want to have the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, of course, running on HANA database. And the source can be ERP on any database. It can be in particular ERP on HANA database. The source can even be an S/4HANA system on premise. For all of those, we can use either DMO with system move, listed here for all the cases, or we can use the new approach, dmove to S4, works in all cases. For those cases, even if required with those downtime optimization techniques, so downtime optimized DMO or downtime optimized conversion. But downtime optimized conversion is not required if the source is already on SAP S/4HANA, because we have not those data conversions like in the conversion case from ERP to SAP S/4HANA. That is the overview. Now, let me compare those two approaches. Most of the things I've already mentioned. The benefit of the existing approach, DMO with system move, is can use any connection. Even if you do not have a connection between source and target, you could put the data into USB disk and drive it to the target. The new approach requires a good connection, and this asterisk says check the SAP node here on the values that we require for this. The big benefit is this approach allows downtime optimization techniques. The DMO with system move only offers the parallel mode that you will use anyhow. There is a sequential mode and the parallel mode. You will always use the parallel mode. DMove to S4 requires S/4HANA as a target, but that's what we are talking about anyhow. The R3 load pipe mode I already shortly mentioned. Here we have only one software update manager that is running. Technically, the target application server is an additional one, a full instance belonging to the source system. And some remarks on using the source system for specific scenarios. That is the comparison. So we have two approaches. If the connection is good, we always recommend the new one, dmove to S4. A fallback in case connection is not good is DMO with system move. Still works, but not those many options of downtime optimization or downtime reduction technologies exist. Now a bit more in detail, the steps for dmove to S4. Well, in an in-place case, we would only have source and target database and the application server level. But now we divide this into two sections. We have the on-premise system here, and in the target, like always, before starting the software update manager, we have to install the HANA database. And now what we do in addition, or the partner is doing this on the migration server, it's the installation of an additional application server on the target environment. So it's not a skeleton system, it's not a separated, isolated one, it's an additional one belonging to the source system, setting up the connection. And of course, that requires that connection is set up and specific ports are opened there. And remark, the additional application server is to be installed on the migration server provided by ECS, where the partner has access to the operating system and is capable to install such an additional application server. Then we start the software update manager on the target. That's important. So the software update manager has a fast connection to the target HANA database. That is on purpose. The software update manager will use the usual tasks, like in a plain DMO. So there's an R3 load pair. The one part is exporting from source and the second one is importing into HANA. So one pair. And since they are both running on the same additional application server host, they can use the pipe mode, direct connection. And of course, we have several of those pairs. You configure and you test what the best number of R3 loads is, like in the standard migration, tuning the R3 loads up to 500,000, whatever works, depending on the performance of your additional application server. Then the software update manager during the procedure will say, well, I detect I'm not running on the primary application server, bracket, I'm not running on that application server where the ABAP Central Services ACS are running, bracket. And then this tool will offer to do the move. The tool will offer to move the ABAP Central Services from the previous one to the new one. Actually, it's installing those new and will not start the old one. That's technically behind. We use this option with this because we then have the move included as part of the procedure. And then it's done. It's just a screenshot here of this move of ACS instance that is offered. We use this one. Now, it's not a new technology. It's just a combination that we have here in this D2S4. The SAM guide offers this ACS instance move details on this, and further aspects to be considered is you should check the connection between source and target to estimate whether dmove to S4 would work. Of course, you know that the software update manager offers a benchmarking tool, a specific migration option where the software update manager will not care for conversion, will not care for shadow system, for shadow repository. It will focus on migration. You can even say, migrate only 10% of the source database, and then you get a first indication for the transfer rate and the network quality. Referenced in the DMO guide, the benchmarking. In the DMO guide, of course, we also explain dmove to S4. That's the long name. There is a blog post here on dmove to S4. We have a section in the SAP node as well, and you should evaluate the prerequisites, especially the network connection, to evaluate what the best approach is for your case. Again, depending on the network connection, if it's good, then you use dmove to S4. Otherwise, you have the fallback DMO with system move. Now coming back to this picture, we've seen this before, custom on-premise area with source system, the target environment, especially with this migration server where the partner would install the application server. The installation of HANA database is done by the ECS colleagues, SAP colleagues, but migration server here as a virtual host can be used by the partner to install the application server, either the skeleton for DMO with system move or the additional application server for dmove to S4 belonging to the source system here that is done. And it's just that we are working on a system transition workbench. That's the important new thing on this slide. The long name is RISE with SAP System Transition Workbench. We from SAP, especially ECS colleagues together with our department software logistics, are working on a guided procedure that shall better guide the partners through the process. And the system transition workbench aims to orchestrate it where things are automated, where checks are included. And with this, the partner, the customer, and SAP will have a better picture on Where is the process? Which checks are successfully done? So that's an outlook. We call this RISE with SAP System Transition Workbench. We start here with a lift and shift procedure, but this will be extended also for those conversion cases that we are focusing here in our session. So that this is an orchestration for all the relevant parts in this procedure. For this, a dedicated slide, RISE with SAP System Transition Workbench, to offer a fast, secure, seamless technical system transition. There's documentation, and there is the partner benefits catalog, where you can register to be part of the early adopter program. I expect this approach to be generally available next year for a couple of scenarios. And again, we are starting with specifics like lift shift currently, so source is already SAP S/4HANA, but in the midterm, this workbench will also be used as an orchestration tool to moderate or to orchestrate the conversion with the software update manager. With this additional resources, worth mentioning, there is a book for those of you who are still reading books or even e-books. It's covering not only conversion, but also new implementation. We have out in the English edition, the 3rd edition currently. The link to the respective page for SAP Press is listed here. And the key takeaways. Targeting S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition is a system conversion. We have focused on the differences. First of all, organizational part. A partner is involved typically to run the conversion. The release cycle is the same. For the compatibility packs, there are some differences that you should check using the respective SAP node. And the software update manager offers 2 approaches for a combined conversion transition, the DMO with system move. But if the connection is good between source and target, move to S4 is the one to use. It's faster, and it allows even to switch gears and to use advanced technologies for downtime optimization, like downtime optimized DMO, migrating tables already in uptime, or even downtime optimized conversion. That is not only migration, but also data conversion from the old to the new data model is covered partially in uptime. With this, we are at the end of the slide deck, and we can check for questions. I've seen there are a couple of entries in the chat. Let's have a look.
So, Boris, thank you very much. Thank you for this insightful presentation. And we have one question in the chat so far. But before we move to it, I can only encourage our audience to think of their questions and comments, bring them up via Q&A tool or in the chat, and have this and leverage this unique opportunity that we have today with Boris. With this, I suggest we move to the question, which is demove. I just read the question because not everyone can see it on the screen. Is demove to S4 approach running online when the source system is in operations?
Short answer is yes, but we have to have a closer look on this. So the approach is using the software update manager, and the software update manager has a long uptime phase where it's preparing the conversion. And uptime phase means it's online and users can work on the system. Then there will be a decision when to enter the downtime where no end users are allowed. So it's still the demove to S4 procedure as the software update manager with downtime. And afterwards, it's uptime again. So the complete procedure has an uptime and downtime part. It's running throughout the complete procedure. The benefit of demove to S4 is if we want to reduce the downtime, and we have a separate session on this that was last week, so you can check the playlist in YouTube. We can use extended downtime reduction techniques. Yeah, so that would be my answer for this first question. Is there a way to get the slide deck? Yes, Larissa answers this. That will be provided. And what happens to any custom code in the customer has during this move? The standard conversion is taking care for the custom code, and this is the same for the moving to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. So there are no differences. If you have an ERP source system, you typically do have custom code in there. It has to be considered. The S/4HANA comes with a new data model. So if you have used in your ECC system old objects in ABAP that are no longer in the target data model, then you will have to adapt your coding, and there are tools to support you to analyze what has to be adapted. And you will combine this with a scoping. You will check which of your custom code is required any longer. Coding that is not used for more than 1 year may be obsolete. And maybe you have developed your own solutions for things that are now part of the standard offering of SAP S/4HANA, like analytics, embedded analytics. So that is a process that is to be followed for a standard conversion. And it's the same approach when we transition to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition as part of RISE with SAP. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. I can't see more questions in the chat, but there might be someone still typing the question. I just give a short hint to the question about the materials. The materials of our sessions of the entire webcast series are available under the playlist on YouTube. I've posted it already in the chat and in the answer to the respective question. And the PDF is usually included in the description to the video. This information is for those who didn't check it yet, but please, yes, you can find all the, and also the sessions that Boris mentioned today in his session, for example, compatibility checks, or the one that he conducted himself in September. I've also posted the links to them in the chat. I hope this is now clear.
I see another question. Hi, Boris. If the front-end server for Fiori is embedded into SAP S/4HANA, then BTP ABAP extensions are bypassed, not called. I'm not the expert for SAP Fiori development, but I'm not aware how BTP extensions are used in this context, so I cannot really answer this. But I do not see any difference to a standard setup on-premise where we do not move to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, where we do not move to Private Cloud Edition. That should be the same context, even independent on whether the S/4HANA system is running on-premise or in RISE.
All right, thank you for that. So, do we have more questions or comments? All right, I can't see more questions. Again, thank you, Boris, for this presentation. And of course, thank you to our audience for being with us, for being also so dedicated to our webcast, because a lot of participants participate in our weekly sessions, and it's a lot. For this, I really appreciate it. And there will be one more session next week. I will send a reminder as usually, and I've already shared the schedule for November and December for you, for your calendar, so you have the chance to reserve some time in November and December. And we will then concentrate on this selective data transition approach. So if this is the case for your company, for your role, then make sure that you join our webcasts. With this, again, I can't see more questions in the chat. I assume that all is clear, or the question might come afterwards. You can, of course, contact Boris directly or me from the program, so we can forward this to Boris. And this applause and hearts and thumbs up go, of course, to you, Boris. And this is great. This is great appreciation from our participants. And yes, with this, I would like to thank everyone and to invite to a live session that we'll have next week. With this, thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you, Larissa. Bye.